Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our very first episode of the TechBytes podcast with Startup Nation and Dell Technologies. My name is Megan Wright, and I will be your host for this series, and I am also the direct point of contact and account manager through the partnership of Dell Technologies and Startup Nation. Through our partnership, we have had the opportunity to collaborate and partner with so many great startups and entrepreneurs. And we're so excited to launch this podcast today to now bring a whole different element to this partnership, which is bringing forward some really great speakers, subject matter experts, and really talking about all things technology at the cutting edge. We know as an entrepreneur in a startup, you need the most information at all times from a technology perspective to stay agile and competitive in your markets. So that's our goal for this podcast, is to continue to bring some great content your way. And for the very first guest of this series, I'm so excited to introduce Marcela Curran. She is the product marketing consultant with our Dell product group at Dell Technologies, and I'm so excited to have her on today. Marcela, please take it away.
Thanks, Megan. We're really excited to be here today and walk you through some of our client products and solutions. We won't be able to walk through everything today, but we did want to walk through a few kind of key products in various form factors that can be a good fit wherever you work. We'll be using the Virtual Tech Rally today, which is a tool that we recently launched as a way to continue to be able to see and experience these products in a virtual and safe way at home. You can see 360 views of the devices, watch videos, check out spec sheets, see the devices in various environments, and so much more. I'd like to introduce Dhiren Patel. Dhiren is a client technologist at Dell who empowers organizations through their workforce transformation journey by helping them put their employees first. He is also a self-proclaimed big tech geek who loves all things Dell Technologies. And with that, Dhiren, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Marcela and Megan. Absolutely excited to be with the team here. Technology has kind of changed quite a bit in the last year. If we go back to the start of the pandemic, never has technology been more important, right? It keeps us all connected. You look at the reliance on the internet, kind of doing things like this and putting together a podcast. So as Marcela kind of explained, I am a client technologist at Dell. That may seem like I am have a fancy title. The shirt may say it, but realistically, I am an expert when it comes to the hardware, right? So in my hand, this is what I talk to on a daily basis with our customers. So Marcela and team actually, at the start of the pandemic, they had to pivot. When it came to kind of how we interface with our customers, it was typically face to face. Now, there's only so much I can do like this on camera saying, hey, this is a Latitude 9420. We just launched it. It's super slick. It's a little bit distracting. It may not get the point across, but basically with the help of Marcela and the team, we designed the Tech Rally. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and I'll walk you through it. But I'll bring it up. And once it's up, we'll continue. As you look at the Tech Rally, it's this 3D virtual environment. Dell Technologies, when it comes to the talk track, we typically have spent a lot of time going through our personas. And what this was is, hey, the days of providing one device to every employee, we don't do that anymore, right? We've learned from that in terms of making sure we're providing the right experience to the end user. And if we go back to kind of the bio that Marcela had read, it was really about end user experience. So throughout the Tech Rally, what we're going to see in this virtual environment, when you look around, there's going to be kind of different stations. So looking at the remote worker, for instance, right? Probably it's all of us. Maybe we're working in the office like myself, or maybe you don't have an office, just all your rooms are taken up in the house or condo, wherever you are, and maybe you're working out of the kitchen. So perhaps this is resonating to you. But in terms of the setup, we'll go through each of the personas. We'll do this teleportation. So just to give you kind of a little bit of a teaser, I'm going to click the teleportation device, and now we're magically going to get transformed into your kitchen. Maybe this is your reality, you're steps away from coffee. Sometimes on those days, I wish my office was closer, but maybe your windows face this beautiful sunlight. I look outside, we had snow a couple of weeks ago up here in Canada, but just depending on where you are, you're working like this. So, in terms of kind of the talk track, I can unpack latitude mobility if that sounds great. Marcela and Megan, let me know. Give me a thumbs up. Perfect. So when it comes to kind of our latitude mobility in typical Dell fashion, we're going to have a 3000 series, a 5000 series, and a 7000 series. Now, you're probably wondering, where does this 9000 come to light? So last year, we actually introduced the brand new 9000 series. And think of this really as an ultra premium device. Now, you're going to get the sleekest finishings. You may see the diamond cut edges down on the corner, super nimble, super thin, super light. So when it comes to the Latitude portfolio, we've now changed. You're going to see a 3000, 5000, 7000, and 9000 series. So starting off, I can talk on hours about each of the products, but, given the time constraints, we're going to focus on just a few of them. So starting with our Latitude 9420, which is kind of that flagship device for this generation. It is a 9000 series, so think about ultra premium. It is a 14-inch display. So this is kind of the power of the tech rally. I talked about showing a device on screen. We're now able to manipulate the different views. You're able to see, hey, we really improved overall the venting on the device. We listened to some of the customer feedback over the years. Hey, devices are running a little bit hotter. When it comes to our product group and how we balance that fine line, we have to really innovate. So you're going to see kind of our dual opposite outlet fan technology that's going to be really sucking the air from the bottom of the device, which is what you're seeing on here, and through the top of it. But enough with the kind of technical jargon. The 9420, super slick, super sexy, really premium. You are going to have a very fantastic device. It's going to be operating at 20 watts thermal design power, getting technical here, but it's going to pack a heck of a punch, right? You see your top firing speakers on there. From a port perspective, you are going to see your standard full-size HDMI, 2 display ports, USB Type-C ports. And then on the other side, we were able to protect and keep that USB Type-A. But the 9000 series, I am just showing that 14-inch, the 9420. We do have a 15-inch, so the 9520. Now, both of these devices, they are going to be ready for, they're 5G capable, so you don't have to worry about that. If you do need 5G technology, Dell has you covered with our 9000 series. So moving on, 9000 series, think really ultra premium. So I'm going to switch back and we're going to pull up a 7000 series. So when it comes to our 7000 series, really think about a premium device. Now, your devices can actually be configured as a 13-inch, 14-inch, and for the first time ever, we launched a brand new 15-inch. So this was actually the result of customer feedback. Customers were telling us, hey, that 3000 series 15-inch or that 5000 15-inch doesn't look the greatest. Maybe I need something a little more premium. So Dell, we went to the drawing board and at the beginning of this year, we launched this brand new 7000 series. So similar kind of talk track there, I'm able to pull up the different kind of views of it. From a port perspective, we definitely have we have you covered through and through. So one thing that I didn't cover in the 9000 series, and I'd be remiss if I don't bring this up, is really Dell Optimizer. So Dell Optimizer is kind of this brand new AI-based technology that we actually introduced in our portfolio last generation. So what we actually did was using Comet Lake processors or newer, Intel introduced kind of this functionality called Adaptix technology. Now, using our data science practice, we developed kind of an application called Dell Optimizer. Now, if you've purchased from Dell in the past, you'll probably realize, hey, Dell Optimizer has actually existed on the precision side of the house, our precision workstations, and it was called Dell Precision Optimizer. What we actually did is, based on the success of the device, we actually propagated it out throughout our client portfolio. So now you can get it in the latitudes, you can get it in the Optiplex, you can get it in the precisions. So on screen, you are seeing 4 components. I will actually walk you through 5 of them. So we'll skip Express Connect for right now. I'm actually going to jump to number 2, which is Express Response. And really what this is it gives you, your end user, the ability to actually optimize your applications. We can actually select up to 5 applications and it's going to crank out more performance. So maybe you're using Zoom, maybe you're using Teams, Outlook, PowerPoint, Excel, and you want to optimize that. So Dell Optimizer is going to learn that behavior and crank out more performance. So the end user is going to have a better, more positive experience. Express sign-in we actually had for a few generations now. And this was actually the introduction of a proximity sensor into our devices that actually has hooks into Windows Hello technology. So, as I walk up to my device like this, it's automatically going to sense your face and your presence and log you in. You don't even have to touch a key. The benefit of this, there's also a security kind of story to that, where if I turn around and walk away, that device is automatically going to lock. So think about the added security. In a world when we get back into the office, whatever that may look like, Express sign-in definitely is going to be even more important. Express charge, we've had this kind of functionality for many generations now. But what it does is actually optimizes your overall battery life. So it's going to look at how you interact with the device and make sure the right battery profile is applied to that device to ensure you have battery life throughout the full day. Another kind of functionality that we've introduced is to protect kind of that battery life and that battery health. So nowadays, if you look at all of us, maybe those that are watching it either on the phone or maybe on a computer, your device is constantly plugged in. So there is a downside effect to that where your battery could actually get harmed because you're constantly throwing in AC power. So it's going to learn and apply the right battery profile to that device. Now, Express Connect, number one on the screen, what you're seeing there, this is the notion around Wi-Fi connectivity and ensuring that as you're going through an audio-video conferencing experience, your Wi-Fi performance is absolutely the best that it can be. So what it's actually doing is if you have multiple Wi-Fi networks kind of in range, it's automatically going to sense which kind of Wi-Fi network is the strongest and automatically connect you there. Now, you won't have to worry about, the switching process happening during a video conferencing meeting like this, where you're going to automatically get kicked out. It's going to wait to switch when it's the right time. So we are using AI. There is super smart people, much smarter than I, actual data scientists bringing this. And the last piece, which isn't on the screen here, is intelligent audio. Now, this is probably one of my favorite. Now, when you look at kind of Zoom, Teams, and our lives day to day, you want to make sure your audio experience is absolutely the best that it can be. Now, maybe you have dogs barking that get startled from a doorbell. Maybe, like my daughter, she comes into the room and starts screaming. Intelligent audio is going to help filter out some of that background noise. So we're really putting kind of that end user experience at the forefront. And from a Dell Technologies standpoint, we really have the most intelligent PCs. Now, I'm going to bring up kind of the Latitude 5000 series, and I think I'll turn it over to Megan to carry this forward. But when it comes to the Latitude 5000 series, I really want you to walk away with understanding that the Latitude 5000 series is really that Swiss Army knife. And what I actually mean by that, it's going to give you the most flexibility from a ports perspective. It's going to give you a pretty good balance in terms of the overall device, the look and feel. And overall, majority of our commercial customers definitely are purchasing some element of that 5000 series. So on screen, we do have a 14-inch. You'll notice that you are going to have more USB Type A ports. So maybe you're plugging in a headset or a mouse. You're going to see that RJ45 port, on that 14-inch and 15-inch. Flipping it on the other side, if I can get my mouse go. For this generation, we actually were able to introduce 2 USB Type-C that are actually Thunderbolt ports. Now, traditionally, if you've purchased kind of a Latitude 5410, the number one comment we heard was, hey, there isn't enough USB Type-C ports. So with this generation, brand new chassis launched in January, we were able to do that. Now, one final thing on the Latitude 5000 series, and this is actually something that I'm personally passionate about, is the environment. So for the first time ever, we are the industry's first vendor to use bio-based plastics from tree waste in the LCD A cover, which is the heaviest product heaviest part on the device, right? And it's actually the back cover of the LCD screen. So if you're wondering, how does bio-based plastics from tree waste equals laptop? There's actually, through the paper manufacturing process, there's a byproduct called tall oil. We actually take this tall oil and include this in our manufacturing process. So when I look at the Latitude 5000 series, there is 21% bio-based plastics, 50% post-consumer recycled plastics, and that remaining 29%, if my math is correct, it's carbon fiber, it's recycled carbon fiber, reclaimed carbon fiber from aero waste. So if you have a sustainability goal out there, if you have a corporate social responsibility metric, that Latitude 5000 is actually going to help you out there. So I'm going to close up kind of on that Latitude portfolio of products. There is a 3000, there is a 5000, there is a 7000 and 9000. So depending on kind of your requirements, we will have you covered. So think of your TV package, good, better, best, maybe bestest for the 9000, if that's a word. Think of the BMW, the 3, 5, 7 series, and then the 9 series, we'll go make up. Think of that ultra premium device. So I'm going to turn it back to Megan, and she'll take us through the next steps, and then we'll be back in just a few moments.
Dhiren, I think I love how you phrase it, of the Latitude series being that Swiss Army knife. It's just so true. There's just so many different directions that you can customize for your specific fit and needs. So regardless of what industry that you fall within, or what your specific startup is, considered, we can still find that right fit if you are looking for that corporate workhorse grade of a laptop, all from the ranges like Dhiren mentioned, that 3000, 5000, 7000, and 9000. And, I think from a workhorse standpoint, entrepreneurs, startups, business owners, you are pushing your system probably 9, 10 plus hours a day, maybe more than you should. Give yourself a break here and there, but these systems can withstand that push. So that's just what's so great about it from an investment standpoint as well. So I think we've heard some great information on the Latitude family. And, Dhiren, I'd really love to get your take and see within that virtual tech rally tool a look at our Optiplex line. Desktops have come a really far way from what they used to be. So I'd love to see, what that looks like today in the eyes of a consumer.
Yeah, so happy to talk about Optiplex. Now, I would be remiss if I don't make this point, is the desktop is not dead, right? Because of the pandemic, there's been a big push for mobility so that we can go work in the kitchen. Maybe you got a patio in the backyard, you want to work there. There is certainly a place for the desktop. Now, when it comes to the desktop, I could talk about the Optiplex portfolio, which I'm going to unpack in the 5 different form factors. Towards the end of this session, we will go through our workstations, where we both have fixed workstations and mobile workstations. So on the topic of Optiplex, we have been in the Optiplex line of business now for almost 27 years. So if you think about that, maybe some of you startup may not be that old, right? 27 years old. The Optiplex line of business could potentially be a little bit older than you. Quite scary. But what it is why I made that comment. The desktop is not dead. We have a lot of industry expertise from an Optiplex desktop perspective. Now, I'm going to start off kind of talking about the 5 different form factors. Now, in typical Dell fashion, you are going to see a 3000 series, you are going to see a 5000 series, and you are going to see a 7000 series. So very quickly, what are some of those differentiators? So if you have a systems management requirement for vPro, which is Intel's out-of-band management, I'm automatically going to recommend you start at a 7000 series. But majority of the customers that don't need vPro, we're going to start with that 3000 series. And that's where majority of our customers are going to start at. We're going to hit a great price point. So for startups like yourself, you want to look at that Optiplex 3000 series. 5000 series, maybe you need a couple additional ports like USB Type-C. Maybe you need kind of Intel's active management technology. Then we'll move you up to a 5000. So when you're having that conversation with kind of your Dell account team, you want to go through and figure out what are the system management requirements. So from an Optiplex perspective, I talked about 5 different form factors. So we'll start with the micro form factors. So that's kind of the smallest. If we look at the industry, maybe it's referred to as a mini or a tiny, kind of our competitors will call it that. Small form factor, just a little bit bigger than that micro form factor. Then you'll see the towers. Then you'll see the traditional all-in-ones. We have a 22-inch all-in-one, 24-inch all-in-one, 27-inch all-in-one. So an all-in-one is actually going to merge kind of that compute and display together on one platform. Super kind of easy to place in any type of environment. And one of the coolest form factors that I'm actually most excited about is the Optiplex Ultra. Right. So this is actually, we had this on the 7070 Ultra. This generation, it's the 3090 Ultra and 7090 Ultra. And very quickly, I could get very giddy talking about this, but look at what we've done on the insides. That's your CPU there. We got 2 DIMM slots. You got an SSD. You got your WLAN card. It's crazy kind of how far technology has come to really enable us to put one of these inside the stand of a monitor. So going through the tech rally, let's bring up kind of the traditional, it'd be somewhat of a desk-centric user. But how we have it called out kind of in the tech rally environment would be a phone-based worker. So maybe you have call center workers, maybe you have financial workers that are typically on the phone all day. Maybe they're on headsets like this, or maybe they're interacting. But, I'm going to go and teleport into an environment that's going to bring this out. So in this environment, we've got a couple different setups here. So let me just kind of navigate. I hope I'm not making everyone too dizzy on there. But I'm going to bring up kind of this guy, and that is actually our micro form factor. So as I said, Optiplex, 3,000, 5,000, 7,000, let's forget about the model number for a second. Let's just talk kind of about the form factor. So super tiny, we've got some really exciting things. Typically you're going to see 2 full-size display ports, definitely a lot of USB ports. You do have your RJ45 up top, so we can configure kind of the number of displays you need. That is actually a punch out on screen, so where you're actually going to configure either an additional video port. When you flip it around the front, standard kind of headset jacks, USB Type-C, and your USB-A. So if you're working in constrained environments where you can't really fit too much, the Tiny is a great option. Now, I'd be remiss, we've talked a lot about mobile class architecture, mobile devices, the laptops. The desktop is not dead. Now, when you look at something like Teams, when you look at something like Zoom, your CPU utilization can go all the way up to 100%. So maybe for those power users that don't need a mobility device, look at our desktops and look at our workstations. Towards the end of kind of this podcast, we're going to talk about the precision products. I'm going to actually bring up a 3240, and I'll give you my personal experience with that. So moving on, I know we're going to be pressed for time. As always, I can get really passionate and talk quite a bit about this. So, I'm going to bring up very quickly, this is a small form factor. So your micro form factor, this big, small form factor, scaling up. Definitely more room for more ports, but we can do a lot more with that. And then I'll show you kind of the last 2 products, and then we'll turn it over to Megan again. Looking at an all-in-one, so this is a 27-inch all-in-one. So on screen, your speakers are going to be built into it down at the bottom. You do have a top-mounted webcam. It is a push-down mechanism, so you don't have to worry about kind of that piece of tape that you got on your screen or maybe that Post-it note, but you have built-in security. So with an all-in-one, kind of flexibility there. Now, as I alluded to, you do have a 22-inch, 24-inch, and 27-inch. So a lot of kind of options and choice. If there's one thing you're going to walk away with today, you're going to understand Dell Technologies portfolio is extremely broad. We have you covered all the way from the conference room to the battlefield. So we have a lot. And getting back to kind of the last two form factors. So one is the Optiplex Tower. These are our bigger chassis. Maybe you need to plug in a discrete GPU. As you can see, definitely much bigger. You are going to have a bigger power supply, a couple PCIe slots to plug in what you need to do. But the mid tower, we do have some choices there. And the last thing is the Optiplex Ultra. Now, I love what we've done with the Optiplex Ultra, and really it's around kind of that innovation story. So if I were to flip it around, it's actually hidden in plain sight. So to the average end user, they're not going to see where the Optiplex Ultra is because it's actually inside this stand, right? So on my desk is actually the stand of an Optiplex Ultra. Trying not to drop this, but I just have actually popped it out. So my compute module is right here. So let me put this together, move it out of the way. Going back to what you're seeing on screen, that's actually what I just lifted up. So it's hidden in plain sight. So when it comes to the Optiplex Ultra, we do have a 7000 series or a 3000 series. And why we did this was to actually hit a certain cost point, right? 3000 series, majority of our customers can start there. Maybe they don't need that Thunderbolt port that you're seeing there on a 7000 series. Maybe they don't need to go all the way up to a vPro enabled processor, but we got some really exciting things. You do see some ports there, definitely on the bottom as it's housed in the stand. So we have a couple of different stand options for you. So this is kind of your standard height adjustable. Fixed stand, I probably wouldn't recommend to buy that because, it's a little more cumbersome in terms of how you're adjusting kind of the up and down. And then we have kind of some offset VESA mounts that can give you support for larger panels. So actually not relying on a stand, you're able to actually use a VESA bracket and move it out of the way. So in summary, I know it's a ton of information. We covered 5 different form factors, the micro form factor, small form factor, mid tower, the all-in-one, and the Ultra. So Optiplex, 3, 5, 7, 9, and the 5 different form factors. So I'll turn it over to Megan, and we'll continue on to the precision.
Fantastic. I think what we're seeing here is just the common thread that there are so many selections, so many options to choose from, but please don't let that overwhelm you. The biggest thing to always think back to is this partnership with StartupNation and Dell Technologies and why it's so fantastic as an entrepreneur, a small business owner, or a startup. If you don't have IT on staff, we can get you in touch with a dedicated advisor to talk through all of these options. Which, Dhiren is doing such an amazing job with all of those great little point outs of what you should be looking for on these systems. But again, if you aren't quite sure what is going to be the best option for me, we can talk through that and really gameplay what's going to be the best strategic solution for your business from a desktop solution. And keep in mind, these form factors are really built up for different kind of use cases. If you're thinking of a conference room that you're having an entire meeting of individuals, once we're able to do that safely yet again, you can mount those micros right under the conference table. Or if you are working retail and having those all-in-ones with touchscreen at the very entrance for non-contact sign-ins for customers that are walking in. There's so many different use cases that you can apply these different form factors to. So such amazing information. Thank you so much, Dhiren. And I think, looking at what we've covered so far, the Latitude family, the Workhorse laptops, the Optiplex family, those Workhorse desktops with all of the different functionalities and formats, we do also want to really speak to the creatives. I think in Startup Nation, this platform for entrepreneurs and startups, there's so many creatives in this space that I would love to cover another family of systems, which is our Precision line.
So you're seeing on screen the Precision 5000 series. Now, this is going to be the thinnest, the lightest device, the smallest footprint. And by small, I mean the X and Y dimension, right? We don't really go after that thickness kind of form factor. Realistically, do you use your device like this? Probably not, right? You really want to optimize kind of the X and Y. So the 5000 series, maybe you've purchased Apple devices in the past where kind of the MacBook Pros, maybe the Airs. From a precision perspective, we have you covered for the in our 5000 series, whether it's the 15-inch or 17-inch. Now, this is a super sexy device. Look at the size of that trackpad, really giving you that premium look and feel. Look at the keyboard, just being able to kind of interact with it. Top firing speakers, if you actually were to count how many individually drilled holes are there, it's actually over 3,000. So it packs one heck of a punch, with the subwoofer that's built in. The audio quality is just amazing. And then, you look at the front of screen experience, the super slim bezels. So you have a 15-inch and 17-inch. So if I were to turn my camera around, you'd actually see I'm using a 5750 to the right of me. This is my play machine. I do some editing on it. I do all sorts of stuff with this. The 5750, I could talk on end about all of the innovation. One last thing, and I'd be remiss if I don't bring this up, is the thermals. Now, we actually designed dual opposite outlet fans. We won some patents on this, but, I talked about kind of blowing air, sucking in air from the bottom of the device and putting it through the device and out through the back. We actually designed the dual opposite outlet fans on that Precision 5750. So just amazing, ton of stuff there. So going back, I got to bring up our big boys. And what I mean by that is the most scalable, the most powerful kind of mobile class workstations. And that's the 7000 series. Now, obviously because of what they're doing, they're going to be a little bit bigger, right? You got devices that are ready for VR, ready for AI, a 7550 or a 7750. We can go all the way up to an RTX 5000. That is kind of the highest end mobile class kind of GPU you can put in there. So it's going to pack kind of a heck of a punch. You're going to see more flexibility as it's a bigger device. Definitely some options from a port perspective. You got your HDMI, your mini display port on the back and RJ45, couple USB ports on the side and a couple of Thunderbolt ports. So 7,000, think about raw performance there. So going back, I've covered off the 3,000, 5,000, 7,000 on the mobile side of the house. Let's talk about very quickly the precision kind of fixed workstations. Now, our towers are going to be centered around a 3,000 series, 5,000 series, and 7,000 series. So rule of thumb here, majority of the time, I would say start at a 3,000 series. 3,000 series, think of the value. It's going to pack a really awesome, it's going to pack a really awesome punch there. So what it's going to do, you're going to see a compact form factor, which is on the screen, and I'll walk you through that in just a minute. Small form factor, we talked about the small form factor on the Optiplex side of the house. Same thing here, mid tower. So that is our 3000 series. From a 5000 series, think about a 5820. This is a tower. You're going to see Xeon W class architecture. Majority of our kind of M&E customers, they need something a little bit bigger than a 3000 series. Maybe they're doing multiple GPUs. Our 5000 series is great. Then comes the big boys. So similar to the mobile class, the 7000 being the most scalable. On the precision side of the house, it's the same story there. The 7000 series, it's going to be a dual socket CPU. So you can put two CPUs, a boatload of storage, boatload of RAM, 3 double wide graphics card. We have you covered. So one of the most innovative form factors that we actually launched was back in September, and it's the 3240. So on screen, it's about double the width of a micro form factor. I'm grabbing this out of habit. I can just pull the 3D model that's on screen there. So this guy, I could talk on end. You can configure with an RTX 3000, which means it's ready for VR. It has tensor cores, so you can do artificial intelligence workloads with it. Standard from a port perspective. And I'll take it one step further. I am actually presenting to you on a 3240 myself. I use this full time as my daily driver because my mobile class architecture just wasn't fast enough for what I want to do. I've got professional mics. I'm running streaming software, probably your workloads. This is a great device to check out. So in summary, I talked you through precision. Think about our workstation class performance. We're going to have reliable memory technology, Dell optimizer for precision, Xeon CPUs, most storage, most memory. But again, we got to keep things going now. So I'll turn it back to Megan for the last topic and then we'll wrap up.
Wonderful. Well, I think looking at the precision line, I just can't help but think of innovation. It's just so innovative. It's so powerful. If you are using very high performing programs like AutoCAD and Revit and all of these other, applications of that sort, this is what you should think of whenever you think of a mobile or a fixed workstation. Our precision line's so great. So we've gone over, again, quite a bit of information. This has just been so fantastic. Thank you again, Dhiren, for being our special guest today. And, I would be remiss if we didn't cover one more piece of our products here. So we went over the laptops on the Latitude side, the Optiplex line for our desktops, and our fixed and mobile precisions. And I think when you think of a full desk setup, now that we are somewhat remote, hybrid remote, whatever the future may hold, there is a really great benefit of having external monitors to be efficient and productive in your daily work. I think with the workload that we're seeing these days, you're no longer using just a couple applications at a time. You probably have 10 or 12 windows open at once. So you need those additional monitors to help you get the job done efficiently and productively. So Dhiren, if you can showcase what those look like, that would be so fantastic.
Yeah, so, the displays are just as important as the compute. And to Megan's point, she talked about the number of windows. We look at some of the stats that we've done in terms of the study. You can increase productivity by just provisioning an additional monitor, 18% added productivity. If you take it a step further and provision a curved display, you can actually see up to 42% additional productivity. So when it comes to monitors, think about the more pixels you get, the greater the productivity. Now, pixels equals productivity because you can see and do more. So high level, in typical Dell fashion, think of a 3000, 5000, 7000. On the monitor side of the house, not the same thing. I'm going to walk you through kind of the letters. So we have an E series. Now the E series, think really entry. Maybe it's a fixed height kind of display. Some of our customers, maybe they're super constrained from a budget perspective. They'll go down the path of an E series. But what's more relevant is the P series. So think of our professional kind of three-sided infinity edge bezels, height adjustable displays. We have you covered from a screen size perspective. When it comes to the U series, think ultra sharp. Now, U-series displays are the sweet spot. They are the sexiest monitors. Your displays are going to have four-sided infinity edge, full HD up to 4K. We even have 8K panels in our ultra sharp with Premier Color. We go all the way up. So if you're doing color critical work, you want to look at our UP series. And then comes kind of the curved displays. We have a 34-inch, 38, 40, 49-inch. So let me bring up the 49. That's actually the 49-inch curved. I wish I had one on my desk. Maybe you wish you had one too. I actually have a 34-inch over here, settled for a little bit smaller. But think about what you can do with all that real estate. One of the cool things that we actually launched back in February is our new conferencing displays. Now you have displays with a built-in webcam and speaker. So what that actually does is now you can use Teams. It's a Teams certified solution. With one touch of a button, you get into Teams, you can answer your call, you can do whatever. But on screen, is a 34-inch curved display. Displays, we can talk much longer about some of the cool things. I'd bring up Dell Display Manager, kind of a software that you want to install to really chop up your screen into different quadrants. We have some built-in KVMs on some of our panels so you can connect multiple devices. The last kind of topic I just want to touch very quickly, and we'll wrap things up as I know we're at time, is our conferencing displays. So if you didn't know this, Dell Technologies, we play in the large format displays. So we have you covered in the 55-inch all the way up to an 86. So on screen, I love our Tech Rally because in real life, the 86-inch is about 300 pounds. There's no way I could bring this on screen to your premise to do what we're doing. So the 86-inch, it's super slick, super innovative. One of the cool things that we've done is kind of that pop-out tray where we've kind of split up compute and display technology. So as technology advances over time, you can actually go and replace that Optiplex Micro that's put into there. So we have solutions that are going to be certified for Zoom, certified for Teams. So in summary, the display portfolio, very broad: E series, P series, U series, ultra sharp with Premier Color, and then our large format displays and our conferencing displays. So with that, I thank everyone for your participation and kind of viewing this at your leisure, listening in. I'll turn it over to Megan to wrap things up. I know we're at time, and that's it. So thank you very much, everyone. I will stop sharing and turn it over to Megan.
Well, thank you so much again, Dhiren. I think this information has just been so amazing. Again, we are also virtual and working remote right now. So it's great to be able to take a look at these products in a different light and see them from a 3D view of what can really, be brought to the table from a solution standpoint, all the way from laptops, desktops to these external monitors. So such an amazing tool, the Virtual Tech Rally. I really appreciate your time. So Dhiren, Marcela, thank you so much for being our very first guests on our TechBytes podcast with Startup Nation and Dell Technologies. Now, we will have additional episodes, so please continue to tune in. And if you do have any questions for Dhiren, for Marcela, for myself, or if you would like to be connected to an advisor to go ahead and start to implement these solutions in your business and startup today, feel free to email me at megan_wright@dell.com. And then you can also feel free to visit the Startup Nation landing page, so dell.com/Startup Nation, to access all of your amazing partnership benefits through that landing page itself. So thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, rest of your week, and good luck in your business ventures ahead of you. Thanks so much. Bye-bye, everyone.